in the history of the United States. So in 1988, several years after he returned to America, Bill Clinton joined the Council on Foreign Relations. And then in 1992, the Council on Foreign Relations delivered the election to President Bill Clinton. And the last quote I would like to bring to your attention is this one, found on page 73 of Tragedy and Hope. Dr. Quigley wrote, "The business interests expected to control both political parties equally, the Democrats and the Republicans. Indeed, some of them intended to contribute to both and allow an alternation of the two parties in public office. That means that the Democrats will be in office for 8 years, and then the Republicans will be in office for 8 years, pretty much the same as it has been doing since the 1920s. The Republicans held the presidency under Ronald Reagan for 8 years, from 1981 to 1989. The Democrats held the presidency under Bill Clinton for 8 years, from 1993 to 2001. And then George Bush, W. Bush, was elected to 2 terms, which means he will leave office in 2009. And then, due to the alternating party practice, the network will elect a Democrat for 8 years, which means that this woman will be our next president for 8 years as a Democrat. All because there is an international network that controls both parties equally. Now let me continue with Quigley's answer to the question, why do they want to alternate the two parties in power? And this is what he said. In order to conceal their own influence, inhibit any exhibition of independence by politicians, and allow the electorate, that means you and I, to believe they, us, were exercising their own free choice. I hope you can see just how important what Dr. Quigley just wrote is. We think that we, the people, are in control of our presidential elections, that we select the best candidate from amongst the candidates who run for the presidency, and that we change things when we put the other party in office after we decide that the previous party has failed us. But Dr. Quigley says that they select the 2 candidates, and then we elect one, and they win no matter who is elected because they control both candidates equally. Please notice the contempt this conspiracy has for us, the people of the United States. We think we are electing our president, but they know that we dummies are too stupid to figure it out and get us to select their candidate. And they have been getting away with it ever since the 1920s. And to show you that the statement that both parties are controlled by the same people is true, let me show you the evidence that President George Bush, the father of our current president, intentionally threw the election in 1992 to Bill Clinton. There is a universal rule in politics whether you are running for the presidency of the United States or for dog catcher of Tucson. And by the way, I ran for dog catcher in Tucson in 1996. This was one of my lawn signs. Unfortunately, I didn't win, but I don't think it was my campaign slogan, "A vote early and often," that had anything to do with it. But let me get back to what I was saying. There is a universal rule in national, state, and local politics, and that is never, never, never promise a tax increase. You can talk about increasing benefits or adding new bureaus, but you never, never, never tell the electorate you will increase taxes to pay for it. Because if you do, you will most certainly lose the election. The taxpayers will not vote for candidates who promise tax increases. Now, to show you that George Bush knew the rule during his presidency, he coined a very catchy phrase, "Read my lips, no new taxes." This was repeated so often that it became a joke amongst comedians, but the intent was to make it well known among the American people. So what happened next? George Bush raised taxes in 1990. And because he broke his promise and he knew the rule, George Bush lost the election of 1992. George Bush intentionally lost the election because, just as Bill Clinton told us, both parties are controlled by the same people. And it was not a coincidence that George Bush was also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, just like Bill Clinton. And the Council wanted CFR member Bill Clinton to be the next President of the United States. So they asked CFR member George Bush to throw the election, and George Bush did as he was asked. So the conspiracy wanted Bill Clinton in office. He had followed the yellow brick road, and a conspiracy made him President of the United States. So there you have it. President Bill Clinton is a member of the vast left-wing conspiracy he told us with his own mouth. Now, this will not be an easy speech to deliver because I, too, believed all of the lies. I used to believe that those who founded this nation were men of God, or at least they believed in a supreme being, and that they wrote perhaps the finest documents ever written by the mind of man when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and then the Constitution. But we have been lied to. Because I have found the evidence that our founding fathers were part of an ancient conspiracy. And because they were, they set this nation on a course that few in America know anything about. Perhaps the greatest evidence that I am right comes from the pen of Benjamin Franklin, one of this nation's most influential founders. This is a drawing of Mr. Franklin dressed in regalia, indicating that he was a member of the Masonic Lodge, commonly called the Masons. He signed both the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the Constitution of the United States of America in 1787. Yet, as I hope to prove, he was a major conspirator. He assisted in the creation of the most oppressive document ever written by the mind of man, the Constitution of the United States of America. Now please, I ask you to be open. Please listen to the evidence. That is not the traditional view assigned to what most historians call the most liberating document ever written by the mind of man. And I am certainly aware of the implications of what I believe about the beginnings of this nation. What you are about to hear is perhaps the most revolutionary work ever written on the founding of this nation and the writing of both the Declaration and the Constitution. Because the founding fathers were conspirators, because the founding fathers were liars, because the founding fathers did not protect man's God-given unalienable rights, they took them all away. As was previously mentioned, perhaps the best example of how they accomplished this was written by Mr. Franklin himself. When he wrote his autobiography, Mr. Franklin came as close to admitting the guilt of this nation's founding fathers as it is possible to do without directly admitting it.